Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Wow, things could have gone really bad yesterday. Yesterday, Russian-made missiles, S-300 missiles, landed on a farm in Poland, killing 2 people. The first attack, or at least perceived attack, of EU and NATO territory following the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. This was really bad because it led to a lot of immediate calls from folks saying, that's it. Article 5, an attack on one is attack on all, and that would essentially drag the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization into war, or potentially into defense mode on the border of Poland and Ukraine, potentially leading to aggression directly between Russia and NATO, and therefore potentially World War III. However, we now have a lot more information. Yesterday, while Poland considered calling on Article 4 of the NATO guidelines, which is essentially a consultation call, where you say, all right, hey, we've got a problem, let's all get together and let's come up with a solution here, which is the smart thing to do. You don't want one country just unilaterally going, that's it, Article 5. You even had China coming out yesterday, who's not a part of NATO, saying, okay, let's all be calm here. And when China comes out and says, okay, let's all be calm, you know it's because things escalated to a serious level yesterday. So the Article 4 has been called on regularly. Usually it gets used for concerns around Turkey. Recently it's been used for concerns, obviously, because of Ukraine and Russia. Now, did Poland end up invoking Article 4, the consultation article? No. Poland found that it is not necessary. They found that this attack was accidental, and that this was not an attack. It was unintentioned, and not only was it unintentioned, it was not by Russia. It was by Ukrainian air defense systems, using those good old school S-300 rockets. Those things are really fast, by the way. Let's understand a little bit more about the S-300s and the location of these impacts, and why these were not cruise missiles from Russia. Let's get into that right now. Ooh, and quick note, remember there's a 60% off coupon code link down below for the programs of Building Your Wealth. Okay, here we go. Now, where these missiles landed is actually very important. These missiles have a range of about 95 miles max, but Warsaw and the small town where these missiles landed is about at least 150 miles away from the border with Belarus, meaning these missiles more likely came from the border of Poland and Ukraine. And this led to an investigation into, okay, well, why are missiles like this being used, and why are they ever used in the first place? Well, generally they're actually used to counterattack cruise missiles. Cruise missiles have a very long range, 1,000 to thousands of miles, and cruise missiles can be launched by Russia. Then they could, in theory, fly all the way across Ukraine and land in Poland. But those were not the missile fragments that were found, and therefore, well, in addition to other investigations, of course, but just providing more color into the type of missile here, the Polish government, and as well as the United States apparently a leader in this investigation, have come to the conclusion that these missiles were actually fired by Ukrainian defense forces. These S-300 missiles are regularly used as a surface-to-air missile defense. So in other words, it's like, oh no, there's a fast cruise missile coming. Let's launch an S-300 to counterattack. Now, the S-300s are really fast. They can get up to Mach 6, and they can catch a lot of incoming slower missiles that have a longer range. And so it's pretty incredible to see some of the detail in the weaponry that's used, but it's terrible that 2 people had to lose their lives for this. And also, for note, a cruise missile generally has a speed of about 2 to 3 Mach, whereas those ballistic missiles are somewhere around 6, so sometimes twice to 3 times as fast. Anyway, these S-300 rockets have been concluded again to come from Ukrainian air defenses. Remember, Russia has been shellacking infrastructure within Ukraine. It's terrible. Half of Kyiv was without power yesterday. Some pretty critical infrastructure is getting hit. And Germany is indicating pretty strong restraint as usual, suggesting there's no way we're instituting a no-fly zone. It seems like most countries have come to the conclusion that no, this was clearly unintentioned by Russia, and in fact, if it were Russia, and it wasn't Russia, we believe it was now Ukraine, and it was their air defenses against a Russian attack. Putin actually praised this and praised the restraint of all of the countries, which I think is exactly what we need right now, because nobody wants to go into World War III. Now, obviously, we need this war to end, and we need some kind of negotiated end as soon as possible, in my opinion, for Ukraine and Russia, so people's lives can stop being lost, especially innocent civilian lives. It's terrible what's happening, and it needs to end. So what's come as a result of this? Well, it's not great, because you've got Finland rattling the saber a little bit, and this isn't spectacular, because Finland is a NATO applicant, but they also sit right on the border of Russia, and they say they are militarily prepared. I mean, so was Poland yesterday. They scrambled jets and raised their military alertness level, but they've since calmed down, and the Kremlin has actually praised NATO's response as balanced. They've also praised the United States, which is quite interesting. But Finland has taken a little bit more of an aggressive approach, and that's not ideal because, again, Finland sits right on the border of Russia, and they're trying to get into NATO. In fact, some people already call them a de facto NATO country, and that's not what Russia wants. Russia wants a buffer between it and NATO. And this makes sense. You don't want your strongest global adversary sitting right on your border. When Ukraine was first invaded by Russia, a lot of Russian citizens actually fled Russia and obviously Ukraine. And many of them who fled Russia went to Finland. It's because there are trains that connect Finland and Russia. They're really close together. And one of the things to remember about buffer zones is the analogy I always like to use, and that's North Korea. See, North Korea, according to the United States, is a state sponsor of terrorism. That designation was filed in 1988, and since then, and even before that, but certainly since then, they have not been a friend of the United States. They've been an enemy. Well, there's a saying: the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And when you look at that from a Chinese perspective, you might say, oh, China actually kind of likes that North Korea is not too happy with the United States and vice versa, because it creates a buffer between the United States' power and China. Look at a map. North Korea sits squarely sandwiched between South Korea to the south, duh. Japan is below that, obviously an island, south and east of that a little bit. And above that, you have North Korea, not above South Korea, but above North Korea, you have China. So North Korea is really this area that separates the United States and their military bases in South Korea and Japan from China. And China likes that sort of buffer. But that's the sort of buffer that Russia is really looking for in Ukraine. This is why they're very fearful about the expansion of NATO. And remember, Finland sits right on the border of Russia. And so this sort of saber rattling by Finland, probably not the most ideal in this circumstance. Anyway, this gives you a little bit of color into what's happening. Make sure to check out the programs on Building Your Wealth, linked down below. 60% off for Black Friday. Some incredible benefits, including lifetime access to live streams and lifetime access to all the future lectures. Thank you so much for watching, and folks, we'll see you in the next one.